Welcome to my channel, The Historic State. In the grand theater of war, we are accustomed to tales of epic battles, of armies clashing with steel and fire. But the most decisive victories are not always won with the loudest explosions. Sometimes, they are won in the quietest of rooms, with the most unconventional of weapons. Today, we tell the story of one such weapon. It wasn't a bomb, a tank, or a plane. It was a dead body. This is the almost unbelievable true story of Operation Mincemeat, a military deception so audacious, so macabre, and so brilliantly executed that it fooled Adolf Hitler himself. A lone anonymous corpse floating in the sea was about to change the entire course of World War II. NNTHE year is 1943. Europe is suffocating under the iron grip of Nazi Germany. The Allies, having finally gained a foothold in North Africa, are planning their next critical move, the invasion of mainland Europe. The most logical target, the soft underbelly, is the island of Sicily. The problem? It is so logical, so obvious, that the Germans know it too. Sicily has been transformed into a fortress, bristling with German divisions, artillery, and aircraft, all waiting for an invasion they know is coming. A direct assault would be a bloodbath, a catastrophic massacre on the beaches that could cost hundreds of thousands of Allied lives and potentially lose them the war. The Allies didn't need a bigger army. They needed a miracle. They needed to convince the Germans to look the other way. NNTHE answer to this impossible problem came not from a general's war room, but from the brilliant, slightly eccentric minds of two intelligence officers, a naval officer named Ewan Montague, and an RAF flight lieutenant, Charles Cholmondeley. They were tasked with crafting a deception, a ruse so convincing it would force Hitler to move his armies away from Sicily. They unearthed a wild, almost insane idea from a dusty spy novel: plant false documents on a dead body and let the enemy find it. It was a plan so audacious, so fraught with risk, that it was almost dismissed as a work of fiction. But in the desperation of war, the most outlandish ideas sometimes become the most logical. Operation Mincemeat was born. NNTHE first and most ghoulish challenge was finding a suitable body. They found one in a London morgue, the anonymous corpse of a homeless man named Glyndwr Michael. With the utmost secrecy, they began to transform this forgotten soul into a character, a hero, a man with a life, a history, and a crucial mission. They named him Captain, Acting Major, William Martin of the Royal Marines. They didn't just give him a name, they gave him a life. They crafted a personality for him. Major Martin was a bit careless, hence the lost ID card. He had a fiancée named Pam, who's loving and slightly worried. Letters and a photo were placed in his wallet. He had 2 ticket stubs from a recent London theater show, a bill from his tailor, and a stern overdraft notice from his bank. Every detail was designed to paint a picture of a real, believable, slightly flawed man. This wasn't just a corpse. It was a character in the most important play ever staged. NNBUT. The heart of the deception, the bait for the trap, was in the official-looking documents to be carried in a briefcase chained to Major Martin's wrist. These were no ordinary forgeries. They were masterpieces. Personal, handwritten letters from one famous general to another, filled with casual military gossip and inside jokes to make them feel authentic. And nestled within this correspondence was the poison pill, a seemingly offhand mention that the main Allied invasion target was not Sicily, but Greece and Sardinia. Sicily, the letter hinted, was merely the target of a diversionary attack, a feint to draw German forces away from the real prize. To make the deception even more convincing, they ensured the body would wash ashore in Spain, a country that was officially neutral, but whose government was riddled with German spies who would be all too eager to get their hands on such a prize. On April 30th, 1943, the final heart-stopping act began. The British submarine HMS Seraph surfaced silently in the dark waters off the coast of Huelva, Spain. On its deck, a small group of officers, including Ewan Montague, carefully brought out the body of Major Martin. The moment was heavy with a strange, solemn gravity. They weren't just disposing of a body, they were launching a weapon. Montague recited a short prayer for the dead, a final act of respect for the man whose identity had been borrowed for this grim task. Then, they gently released him into the sea, the briefcase containing the fate of the war bobbing in the waves beside him. The submarine slipped back beneath the waves, its mission complete. The bait was laid. Now all they could do was wait and pray the enemy would bite. Hours later, a Spanish fisherman discovered the floating corpse of a British officer. As expected, the news traveled like wildfire through the web of local spies. In Madrid, Major Karl Erich Kuhlenthal, a top German intelligence agent, was immediately alerted. The German High Command was desperate for any clue about the Allies' invasion plans. The Spanish authorities, playing their part in the neutral charade, officially returned the body and the briefcase to the British. But secretly, as the British had gambled, they had allowed their German friends to carefully open the briefcase and photograph every single document before it was sealed again. The documents were rushed to Berlin, straight to the desks of Hitler's most trusted intelligence analysts. And in Berlin, the documents were analyzed with feverish intensity. The level of personal detail, the seemingly authentic letters, the sheer audacity of it all, it was almost too perfect. Some German officers remained deeply skeptical, but the British had played a masterful psychological game. They knew that the Germans wanted to believe they had intercepted a top-secret Allied plan. The information confirmed their own biases. And the final, decisive blow came from the very top. Adolf Hitler himself reviewed the intelligence. Convinced by the authenticity of the find, he overruled his skeptical generals. He declared that the genuineness of the captured documents is above suspicion. He ordered his most formidable panzer divisions to be moved from France to Greece. He sent ships, troops, and his best general, Erwin Rommel, to reinforce Sardinia and the Balkans. The German war machine pivoted, its eyes now fixed firmly on the wrong target. Sicily was left dangerously exposed. On July 9, 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. One of the largest amphibious operations in history, it involved nearly 500,000 men. They braced for a bloodbath, a slaughter on the beaches. Instead, they were met with surprisingly light resistance. The German and Italian defenders, stripped of their best units, were caught completely off guard. The Allies secured the beaches with far fewer casualties than their most optimistic projections. Sicily fell in just 38 days. The soft underbelly of Europe had been breached. A direct path into Italy was now open, and the beginning of the end for the Third Reich had begun. Nen-Nthe Man, known as Major William Martin, had completed his final mission. He was buried with full military honors in Spain, his grave becoming a quiet, poignant monument to one of the greatest deceptions in military history. For decades, his true identity remained a secret, but his sacrifice, and the brilliance of the men who crafted his story, saved thousands of lives and arguably shortened the war. Operation Mincemeat was a masterclass in psychological warfare, a reminder that the most powerful victories are often won not on the battlefield, but in the minds of the enemy. It proved that sometimes the most potent weapon is not a sword, but a story, a whisper, a ghost who tells a lie that changes the world. NNT thank you for watching The Historic State. If this incredible story of ingenuity, audacity, and the silent war of wits moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because here, we believe that the greatest battles are often fought not with brute force, but with a brilliant, cunning mind.